I mean, the money is just, it enabled me to continue to recover from the renovation of that first property. And then I was able to buy another one, maybe a year-ish and a half later.
What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets.
All right, what's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Short-Term Rental Secrets. I am your host, Mike Sjogren, here with my main man and co-host, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What's going on, E?
What's up, guys? How's everybody?
Fantastic. How you doing today, buddy?
Oh, man. This coronavirus is a real thing. It's actually happening. So dealing with the aftermath of that, or the pre-mat of that, I should say. So starting to get a couple cancellations. So it's just an interesting time. And 10 years in the business, man, had never happened. Like I had that cancellation for like hurricane season, but a pandemic cancellation feels very much like a movie. But let's see, man. We'll see and we'll learn. It's going to be interesting to see how we're going to be able to adjust. I know you and I have talked about like all the different type of travelers, and I have some people that have to be here, so they're all coming still. So it's gonna be interesting to see how we can switch from the family travelers a little bit more like concerned to maybe the business travelers or somebody that's gonna be he or she has to come. So it's always fun, man.
Yeah, for sure. I did a Facebook Live the other day, just kind of talking about that and going through the 9 different traveler profiles. And one of those is people that need medical attention, right? Like if you need heart surgery, you don't care if there's some virus going around, like you still need heart surgery. Like you're not going to postpone that. Otherwise, it's imminent. So like people will still need to travel. So if you're around a hospital, it's a good spot to be right now, quite frankly, for a short-term rental. So yeah, it's the real thing. We'll see, what the impacts are. I definitely see a little blip for the next few months for sure, especially around discretionary travel. But I don't think the industry is going anywhere. And I think once the panic kind of calms down a little bit, and, we've got the smartest people on the planet working on this stuff now because it's literally affecting everybody. So they're going to figure it out at some point. So I always just tell people, just stay positive. Like things happen in business and life. You just got to roll with the punches and you keep it moving. So with that being said, I want to get right into our interview because I'm super excited to introduce Christina, who is here with us today from beautiful Florida. And she has a full-time job and she's running a bunch of short-term rental units. And for those of you that have jobs and you're considering getting in the game, we wanted to interview her because just like most of us, we started this out as a side hustle, and you can take it as big or as small as you want to go and just make some extra income on the side. And that's pretty much it. So Christina, why don't you introduce yourself, give us kind of the 2-minute rundown on what your background is, what your full-time gig is, and how you got into short-term rentals.
So I am Christina, and I live here in Fort Lauderdale. I have a full-time job in finance. I work as a senior analyst in corporate. I've been doing this for 11 years or more. I am originally from Jamaica, so, love the weather and I appreciate the vacation industry and, hoteling and all of that. I've always had some exposure to it. I got into vacation rentals. I used to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo out in West Miramar, which is more of a, so right now I'm on the east side of Fort Lauderdale, where I'm about 12 minutes from the beach. When I was over there, I was way out west and I happened to be close to a medical school. And I got on Airbnb right when it just started. I think I've been on Airbnb for almost 6 or 7 years. So I was one of the first, in the first year of it. And I posted it because I'm just allergic to paying my mortgage. I have to be honest with you. I've only made 2 mortgage payments in the last 6 years out of my pocket. And that was because my renovations went past my mortgage payment date, which, because now I'm renovating properties, it's kind of a different, ball game. So I started with that property. Then I went into real estate. So I do have a real estate background. And then I couldn't decide if I was going to stay in real estate or go back into finance. And then I decided to go back into finance because I needed the W-2 income to buy properties easier because of the 1099 income. I'd only been a realtor for 2 years, and you know how real estate is. You don't really make that much money your first couple of years. So got back into finance, and then after that, I bought my first property with my offer letter. So a girlfriend of mine was renting out vacation rentals, the entire house in Fort Lauderdale, in the neighborhood that I'm in now. And she introduced me to this concept of buying a house specifically just to Airbnb. So this is in 2015. So I think I started that job, let's say September, and I was under contract and closed by December. And I found that property off market. That was like the funniest story, but one of the biggest parts of this business is to find special properties that has a little bit of magic, but also at a really good deal. And that takes a lot of consistency, like being very diligent. And that's one of the things about me. I get very like focused when it comes to like finding my next, I call them my little projects. So I got my first house. At the time I was living in Boca. So I was renting a place in Boca. I had my condo in West Miramar, and I bought my property in Fort Lauderdale. So I Airbnb'd all of them and was living between them. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was kind of, I was young. You're like, whatever. So, again, I didn't like paying rent or mortgage. So I rented out the condo in Boca until they found out. And then they told me I needed to stop, which I didn't. I kept doing it until the lease ended. And then, the money is just, it enabled me to continue to recover from the renovation of that first property. And then I was able to buy another one, maybe a year-ish and a half later. So that next property was 2 blocks away. No, maybe 2 blocks away from my first property in this neighborhood. So the neighborhood that I'm in is gentrifying. So it's not like super nice, but it's up and coming. So that's one of the things I love about this area. And the one thing I love about Airbnb is that it enables me to hold these assets. So, and I'm holding the assets, so I have some appreciation, but you can't depend on that. So there's appreciation. And then on top of that, there's the income, which you can recover your investment and then save up to buy again. So at this point, I have 4 full-time Airbnb properties along with my home that I live in, while still having a full-time job. So that's kind of my story.
She packed a lot of stuff in there. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I'm not saying that this is something that I just roll out of bed and just do. I'm very hands-on. And the thing about your business is that you have to learn all parts of it, there's a lot to it, but it can be done. But if you invest at the beginning to educate yourself and to continuously invest in your education, as things come up, you can always solve it really quickly. And it's like a muscle. It's like going to the gym. The more you do this, the better you are because of the confidence and experience. And sometimes you can't understand how you solved a problem, but it's because of all of that work that you've put in.
I love that. And I found that there's kind of 2 different style operators. There's folks like you and E that were both very hands-on and like got in there and like did it. And then I was kind of the opposite end of it, that pretty very, very hands-off. Like we've got properties in a lot of different states, so I physically can't be there. So it's much more hands-off, and just had to figure out certain ways to automate a lot of the business. But it can work either way. And it's honestly like whatever floats your boat and whatever gets you comfortable.
100%. And I think that you have to look at what is it that you want, like what are your long-term goals, and also be fully aware of your personality. if you put yourself into a property that is 100 miles away, but you can't sleep at night because you can't see it, that's not for you. And if you need to respond to every issue and show up, your properties need to be driving distance. And I think that, you don't want to jump into something that is not aligned with who you are. And there's nothing wrong with figuring it out on the job also, right? Because let me tell you something about every business, and every entrepreneur needs to understand that you can never be afraid of failing. That is the true, it's the way you learn. It's the way that you become the person that you're supposed to be, and to truly take everything that you do to the next level is to fall. Because picking yourself up every single time after something, I've had some stuff happen. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see my pool. I had to dig out the back of my pool like 3 weeks ago. Guests were coming and there was no water in the pool. Like, when you have gone through some stuff, like I was wiped out for 2 months for a hurricane. Like when you've gone through some things that sound like that feel hard, it's setting you up 100%. And you just need to figure out what is it that aligns with your personality, and the second, and your long-term goals, of course. And after that, you're solid.
Yeah. And that's funny, because for a moment there, I was like, are we talking about short-term rentals? Are we talking about life? Like, what's going on right now? And, but that's true, right? It's the same thing. And I think, and knowing Christina, right? So like my backstory with Christina is that we actually met when we're both real estate agents still, but we randomly sat together at a Keller Williams course. And so this whole course, and then for the whole like 8 weeks of the course, we were at the same table, had no idea about any of this. And then I randomly re-met her last year, a year and a half ago, at a Bigger Pockets meetup that we host. I'm like, and she's like, yeah, I do Airbnb. So it became this whole thing. And what's funny about Christina is that I know she doesn't enjoy some parts of the business, but her why is so strong behind it that she survives it, right? So to me, that's the other part, is like, either do just what you're good at, or if you're doing something that you're not good at, can you put your why into perspective as to why you're doing it? Because then if you're able to put that into perspective, you almost get this like extra little like oomph that allows you to like kind of just come through and survive through some of the bullshit that may like unmotivate you if you're not really connected to that why. And then, yeah, you should definitely follow her on Instagram, because she has a little Honda Civic that I don't know how it's still running.
It's a Corolla.
It's a Corolla, yeah, or something. Like, I don't know. Like, there is videos that she puts like
Paper.
17 bags of mulch in it, and it's literally like that far off the ground. So very different, right? Very different from Mike and I. Like, Mike is very hands-off systems. I am blessed with an amazing team that allows me to be more hands-off. But my beginning was that whole maintenance part of it. So I completely agree with what you said earlier. Get to know your business, regardless of how long you plan on staying in Airbnbs, how many units you plan on having. Just kind of understand the lay of the land so that you can be educated, regardless of what your plan is.
So I like this. So what are your goals, Christina, with your business? Because it sounds like a lot of people talk about the BRRRR method when it comes to real estate, right? You buy a beat up property, you renovate it, you refinance it, you pull the money out, and you go do it again, and you rent them out, and you build a portfolio. You're essentially speeding up that process using Airbnb. So is that kind of your long-term plan, or what's your ultimate goals with this business?
That's a very good question, because there's some days when, less now than maybe a year ago, where I was like, oh my God, this is too much. I want to get out of it. You have days where you do feel that way, but it's doing so well that it's hard to walk away from something that I'm growing and I'm building. So yes, I know about the BRRRR method, and the thing about it is that the properties that I'm buying are not dirt cheap. So my first property was $224 and my most expensive property is 257, but they take, it's 20% down for the ones that I did with an investment loan. And to refinance a property that's not my primary, I haven't learned all of that yet. But the thing that I'm trying to get at is that I make so much money with the Airbnb, and on top of having my full-time job, I come into the cash pretty quickly. And I don't know if you want real numbers, but for instance, like I spent, let's say $60,000 last April. I made that all back by December, and that's it. It's, I don't know how to describe it, but I do have a full-time job. So that is a part of it. And then there is the revenue that comes in from my Airbnbs. And, my properties are at $180 to $220 a night. And then on top of that, I don't have any expenses because my rentals pay my mortgages. My mortgage, I drive a Corolla, I don't have any big expenses. So I've just structured my situation in such a way where in my mind, I'm like, okay, I buy this property, I'm gonna recover the renovation cost. Then I give it 16 months to become profitable. And then while all that cash is coming in, I'm putting that together to buy my next property. I also sold my first unit that I bought after, I bought that during the recession. So I did come into a windfall there, and that has enabled me to buy more. So the next step, to your point, will be to look into drawing money out of the current property I'm sitting in right now. I went way over budget on this property. I bought it for $183. It appraised for $215, and I put, at this point, about $35,000 into it. And to me, I don't feel comfortable tying up all my cash in it because I did have to do a 20% down. So I'm about $60,000 to $70,000 in just hard cash into this property. So this will be my first attempt to refinance out of it, if I can find a way to do that on an investment property. The other option would be to sell it. But I just got booked, tomorrow. My first guest comes here on Sunday, and he booked for 3 weeks, and it was a $3,200 booking. So it's like you get a taste for it, and you're just like, no, I can't sell it. But I am going to truly explore that because I could probably sell this property netting $265 because I did go all out on it. Not all out, but I did a good job on the renovation. And then maybe taking that profit to buy 2 Airbnbs instead of having the one. I'm probably going on a little bit too much, but that's where my mind is. And that's, to me, the next step in my business is to find ways to refinance out of my cash out of the situation, or to offload one so I can buy 2, or offload one so I can buy 1 and have cash. And, as I interact with more people who are doing this, I am learning all the different avenues that I can take with my business.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the biggest questions that I had, and a lot of people currently have, is they're like, well, when do you know when to quit your job? And in your instance, you're like, I'm probably not. Like, you're good at what you do. And you're just like, I always say this, whether you like your job or not, the longer you can hold off and double down on the cash flow, the better off you're going to be long-term. Like, we probably could have left our jobs like a year ago, but we waited and waited and waited till we got to a point where, we probably could have left when we had like 10 properties, but we waited till we were at like 27, right? Like, it was like, you know what I mean? So, you're just able to reinvest that cash because you don't need to live off of it. It's a different ballgame when you need to live off the cash flow.
So Emmanuel, one of the first things he said to me when we met him at the meeting a year ago, and I was like, I hate my job. He was like, keep your job. And I was like, I didn't come here for somebody to tell me to keep my job. And I mean, I'm one of those people that I say what I think, but I was like, dude, what? So 100%, yes, having a job is so important for financing, stabilizing yourself financially. And one of the most empowering things is walking into your job that you don't like and being able to know in the back of your mind that you have a business that you're making equal or more money doing. And the other thing too that I love about my business too is that I've created this ecosystem of people that support me, that I can help employ. And it's like this other whole company that I have over here. Even though I walk into this one that's soul sucking, I feel like there's something very empowering about walking into your job knowing that you're a CEO over here and you're not going to put up with your garbage over here. And I have to tell you, I know the moment when that shift happened for me, when somebody said to me, you should turn your full-time job into your side hustle. You know, like that you said that at the beginning, that, you know, I'm one of those people who do short-term rental on the side. And the second you said it, in my mind, I already knew that this is my job. My W-2 is my side hustle. And there's something about the confidence of doing this when you walk into your corporate job that they see. They don't know what it is, but I've been encouraged at my job to be more outspoken, to take more leadership, to take on more responsibility, because I walk in there and I don't give a shit. And there's something about that I'm telling you transfers and will propel you in both of those arenas if you can be strategic about it. Obviously, don't tell everybody that you're running a short-term business, Airbnbs on the side. A girlfriend of mine did that, and she was, you know, it didn't work out very well for her. No one at my job knows what I do except maybe 2 or 3 people. And to be honest, one of those people ended up buying a duplex he converted into 2 short-term rentals and bought a 3rd one now. And we're all like, I am helping people at my job who are interested in doing it. But 100%, if you can hold on to your W-2, do it to the point where it doesn't hinder your growth. And you will know when that time is ready. And if I walk out to my job and I'm like, you know, you can't talk to me that way. And I'm like, I'm done. And I walk out, I'm okay. I'll just, I don't know, go to Jamaica for a month and then come back.
There you go. I want to go with you. We went there for our honeymoon. It was amazing.
Really? I love it. Yeah. That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll always remember the moment when I had that realization at my job, when some of my big bosses wanted me to make my team work over Easter weekend to get some stuff done. And I was like, no, nope, they're not working.
You can say
because when you get to that, and it's not being a bad employee, it's just like, you don't have to feel at the mercy of somebody else for your well-being.
100%. And I see people at my jobs who are depending on this for retirement, you know, constantly putting money in their 401k. And I'm like, you know, you're going to live to your 86 or 90. Do you really think that this job 401k that only does 2% match is really going to be giving you the lifestyle that you want at retirement? And that has that mental switch also there can be very hindering to your entrepreneurial life if you don't fully understand what it means to be self-sustained, because that job will suck the life out of this if you don't really understand the mindset of being an entrepreneur. Because those people at that job are just sitting there like at the mercy of their jobs. They come in on time. I don't come in on time, but you know, like they're pretty much like these, I call them droids, you know, and I've definitely had that happen. And I encourage everyone out there that if to strive for that moment, you know, it's not quitting your job moment. It's the graduation moment of moving from droid to being you.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
That was so good.
Yeah, I really like that. And I mean, that's kind of the whole point, right? Like that's, I think, and Mike and I have had the pleasure of knowing each other for a long time, and that's been the whole thing, right? That's what we're obsessed with all the time, is understanding that like the possibilities are endless. And it's so easy now. Like you make money with Airbnb, you make money with Turo. You can put your car on Turo and make money there. And it's this just never ending thing. And then people are so resigned to like just living like just I'll get through this day and I'll get through this day, and then they get through their life, and then at the end of it they're just like, fuck, I didn't do anything.
There's nothing wrong with that. And one of the things that I have learned, especially coming from Jamaica, which is a third world country, is that it's okay for some people to be okay with that.
Yes.
The other, with some other standard or expectation of their lifestyle. But if you know that there's something more, just be careful about that being around that mindset a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, you and I had that conversation last week, Thursday, about looking at 15plex.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to genuinely say, you like opened up this like whole world of non-thoughts in my mind. My mind isn't at commercial yet.
Yeah.
I haven't come to that stage yet, but someone will come across you and they'll trigger that idea. And then once that idea starts, you start looking, and then you start putting things together, and then you'll start moving yourself in that direction. And that is the thing that we need to do, is to be around people that are triggering our minds to be open to things that you never even knew was possible. And that is not happening in a great cubicle at your job.
Yeah, very difficult, at least. Like, it's going to be very, very difficult. Unless you, Christina, sit next to Mike in his cubicle and you're both having the same thoughts and then randomly hit it off.
I am in silence.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you touch on how deep of renovations are you doing? Like, are you buying complete guts? And then what do you do? Like, what have you found it's important?
So, you kind of mentioned that, there are parts of Airbnb that I don't like. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the whole guest interaction, even though the whole concept of Airbnb is to give the guest experience. No, I absolutely love finding that incredible property that I see the vision, I see what someone's going to walk into. And for me, because my neighborhood is a little bit like up and coming, I always envision that they step through the front door and the street disappears. And for me, I love the creation of that experience for the guest. So I love the renovation. The first house I bought, that lady had 7 cats living in that house and a dog. And then she had 13 cats outside.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I can get rid of cat pee. That's on my resume, Airbnb resume. Can eliminate cat pee. That house stunk so badly that nobody was buying it. I walked into it. I saw the backyard. It had a pool, this incredible backyard. I mean, it was totally disgusting. And I just knew that I could make it into what it is now. And that, to me, finding these, they're not good. None of these places are in great condition. And I can do these transformations. I keep looking around because I'm in one right now. And that, to me, is the most rewarding and fulfilling part of this. And what I love about Airbnb is that there's so much income that it absolutely makes the renovation worth it when you look at your ROI. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So what are some things that you do? Like, what are some things that you don't, like you mentioned that on this one, you went all out, and then you're like, I kind of chipped out on a couple of things, but I went all out on a lot of things. So what are those things?
This house was supposed to be $17,000 because I wasn't going to spend as much money on the inside. I was going to make the backyard this incredible getaway. So, but here I ended up doing floors, and I pulled permits for my work. So we're doing right now, I don't know if you can hear work, but they're doing the 3 doors. I did the floors, all of the baseboards, painting, the kitchen, cabinets, plumbing, countertops, ceiling fans. So basically we didn't do the bathroom on this one because of my budget. I had to put up a fence with a permit, and that cost me close to $6,000. And I had a $17,000 budget. That's how come I ended up at 34. So if I do decide to sell this property, I will be gutting the bathroom. But for the purposes of Airbnb, I just painted, resealed the tub, changed the toilet seat, put in a new vanity, mirror, done. And one of the things that, people get really overwhelmed with these renovations, and it's not that serious. If you can find competent people, I have an incredible guy. He's not cheap, but I have a full-time job, so I can't be here. And he comes, I see him on the camera when he arrives. I see the time that he leaves, and I pay him. I show up in the evenings. I walk through the property. I see what's done. And because I've been doing this, I do understand the work. I understand what it means I understand what a day's work should look like. And that's one of the things that can be a little bit intimidating. Mm-hmm. I don't have contractors. I pay hourly because I don't need to get into that. That's a whole other thing. But I believe that paying hourly works for me because I know the work, I know what it takes to do the work, and I'm not in the business of being ripped off and chasing people down for money and they're not showing back up. So
yeah, no, and I think that goes back to your experience, right? So like if you know what to expect and you know how long it takes, yes, it makes sense for you to pay hourly because you have an idea in your mind of how many hours it's going to take, and then you can really like keep it. And then also is finding the one honest kind of go-to person, right?
I have gone through many people, and I'm not afraid to try new people out, and it cost me. Mm-hmm. Charged me $400 to put up gutters and to float floors and to paint a wall, and it was not $400 worth of work, and it turned into this big argument. And I was just like, this is the other thing too, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but being a woman and these people knowing where you live, to me, is another variable where I just paid him the $400 and said, we're not doing anything again, goodbye. Then I find a next person. Then, I've learned to be okay with losses in the process of finding that amazing person that's going to take your business to the next level. And I've gone through some terrible contractors. Screaming in the backyard, like tears. They will take you through the ringer. But those are the experiences as to what brought me to this guy who's working here today. And he's such a blessing. I have no words to describe, but don't tell him, but he knows I love him. But, and this is the other thing about hourly. I do know that hourly is a different concept because you can pay more for menial work, but he's putting in 3 doors for me. Imagine paying a contractor to put in 3 doors for me, a contractor to do plumbing. So there are things where he's making a lot of money on menial work, but then he does big jobs for me that to me levels out. He painted outside, painted inside. To paint this house outside would have been $1,200, not including materials. He was hourly and did it in a day and a half.
Yeah. So it's all about that. Like it's all about what you need for your business, and then understanding where to take wins and where to take losses. So I know your team is not that big, right? Because also you have the handyman on an hourly basis, you have a landscaper, I think, and then two cleaning people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then where did you find those? Like how did that happen? Like, did you use Craigslist? Did you put a sign outside?
Oh God, no. I found my handyman on TaskRabbit. I have 2 handymen actually. One for he's cheaper at $25 an hour, and he does stuff that I can do, and then but I don't want to. And then my other guy, he comes for the big jobs. Then my cleaning lady, I got through a referral, and she referred me to the other lady. And then my yard guy knocked on my door, and he drives me crazy. Like, he is but his work is so good that even though he drives me crazy, that he's just, but he's so meticulous, but he's good. Let's move on from that. But yeah, so that's my team. That's my team of people, and I think I've been working with everyone for maybe going on 2 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Constantly.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just how it happens, man. Like sometimes you gotta kind of take the people that you find, and if they're good and you can train them and they care. I think, like, to me, that's what's been the biggest thing. If I can find somebody that actually cares, and then it's a little rough around the edges, I can fix the edges because they care. I can't teach people how to care, especially the cleaning people, right? It's very difficult to teach people like the level of clean that we need in our business. But I'm glad you're not cleaning the places yourself. So that's good.
No, I did start out cleaning myself on my first property.
Yeah.
And I think that when, to every person who's starting out with Airbnb, you need to clean your places yourself. You need to understand what it takes, what your place should look like, just to understand what the cleaning people deal with, right? But I don't do that at all in a very, very long time, because eventually you graduate to a point where you're working on your business and not in your business. And for me, I'm reading the E-Myth right now. I don't know why it has taken me so long to finish this book.
That's because you don't ask me, like you don't talk to me about things. Then every time you talk to me, you know that I'm going to tell you what to do, and you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to listen to you.
Okay,
I know you may be right, but I'm not doing it. I'm not listening to you.
Like passive listeners.
Yes.
I come off like I'm not, but it's totally like going in.
Yeah. It's just you don't want to give this like satisfaction of looking at me and be like, yeah, that's true. You'll be like, I'm not going to show it.
So the E-Myth is an excellent book that I'm reading right now.
I agree.
I've read Atomic Habits twice this year already. That is my Bible. I now have a habit share app that I use that has kept me on track. I have to say that like this month has been one of the most intensely insane months. I had a renovation. So I had 2 properties go live. One went live yesterday. This one goes live on Sunday. Then I had to be away during the renovation for a funeral. And then on top of that, this whole virus thing. So I've had, cancellations, and I would love to talk about that for a second. So that it's been very, very tough, but for some reason I feel fine. And I think that is one of the things that you learn as you keep doing this, is that muscle for stress, that muscle for solving problems, it grows over time. So don't feel intimidated, to get into this, because it may feel like it's hard at first, but I promise you, like over time, you just become this insanely productive, solve problem, like superhero
machine. Yeah.
I don't feel overwhelmed, but I think for me, I live, and this goes into my spiritual self, is that I live in the faith that everything's going to be fine. Or that could just be Jamaican, like everything's going to be all right.
Everything is airy.
So I don't worry. Like this Corona thing, like getting these cancellations has been, at first it's a little jarring, but I think in this business and any business, you need to look for what is the opportunities here, for instance, right? If somebody's canceling and it's like a month away, I'm just like, no, you're not getting a refund. It depends on where they're coming from. What is their circumstance? Like, we don't know. This was a week ago, not today. But I was like, we don't know what this thing is. So, please decide what you want to do. I can work with you on giving you a partial refund. But if you're coming tomorrow and you're canceling, right now, remember, you can get a portion of the cancellation fee. And one of the things that I've been extremely good about is learning the SEOs on Airbnb. So, and that comes from constantly educating yourself, keeping on top of how the Airbnb platform works. So the second I got my cancellation, I was able to go into my profile and make a bunch of changes to boost my profile. And boom, I got another booking. So on top of the cancellation, I got another booking. And then, so every single time I've had a cancellation, I add a new picture. I change, like just try to enhance the profile as much as possible. And then if you invest in learning about how the platform works, you can really figure out ways to like overcome any of these things that are coming up. And I don't think that this Corona thing is going to be a short-term thing. We need to start thinking long-term. And for me, for instance, this new property, I'm definitely going to look at marketing this place to more long-term bookings, nurses, out-of-state people who are transitioning. This guy, he'll be here for a month because of a renovation that's going on. So, I don't want to put myself at risk, but I need to be preemptive, and I need to look, okay, if this is not working out, how can I think of another way to make this work for me?
I love that. And that was like the exact talk I gave to some of my students the other night, where I'm like, okay, if you step back and look at, I call it like the 9 traveler profiles. Okay, yeah, vacation will probably take a hit. Corporate will probably get reduced. But if you're anywhere near a hospital, like people still need to go to the hospital. Like, unfortunately, like somebody's house is still going to flood at some point. Somebody's house might burn down at some point. They're going to get displaced. People are still like doing things, coming back for life events or whatever. So yes, there will definitely be a blip with short-term rentals for a little bit. But again, it's not the end of the world. If you have good properties in good areas, you're still going to get bookings.
Yes. So one of the things I did was I changed my instant booking on one of my properties. I turned it off, then extended the booking period, and then boosted the listing. So what I'm trying to do is get those long bookings first. And then as the dates start coming closer, then I'll open it back up to the instant bookers. And everyone's so afraid of coming off instant booking. I have not had any problem. I do think you should be on instant book, but if there's a reason why you don't want to be, like for instance, this house was not an instant book. But again, educate yourself on the platform, learn how to really, I want to say work the system, but I don't want to say that, but I've been very, very good at it.
Could you give us maybe like 3 nuggets that you use? Because I'm intrigued, because I've heard a lot of different things. So I always like to get perspective from people.
So the biggest thing on Airbnb is to add pictures. So I have an iPhone 11. I just go in my backyard and just go, take some shots and do the edits, and then I upload it. The other thing too is to change the description, where it says on the pictures, change one word, move a full stop. It doesn't matter. As long as Airbnb sees that you have made a change, it helps the SEO. And then the other one, which I've been using for years before I learned all of this, was to change the pricing. So what I will do, so my houses, I can only have 3-day blocks, okay? But let's say I have a 2-day window, I will drop that price because it can't be booked to $65. So when people are searching and their bracket is lower than the 180 for my nights, my 65-day house will show up in their parameters, right? But my house isn't $65. So those are just 3 of the top ways that I've like tweaked my profile to just get extra bookings.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And all of this is online. Like, go on YouTube. There's a guy out there. I follow him, obsessed with him, Airbnb Automated. He does rental arbitrage, which I'm not, I kind of actually thought about it this morning, about getting into that. But to me, the work isn't worth not having the benefit of holding the asset. But
yeah, I agree. And then if you're in this moment right now, if you're doing an Airbnb arbitrage, you're completely fucked.
Well, the benefit is that you can let go of the asset. You can just break the lease, right? So that's kind of, okay. So let's say, for instance, you can't
really burn a lease. Like, you can't really just get out of a lease. I mean, it depends who the landlord is.
Just just walk away from your deposit. So for instance, on my properties, one of them, I'm making $6,000 gross this month, or, so January was a little bit low this month. I mean, their year compared to last year, but I was at 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 6,000, right? my leases, let's say all of my houses, they would rent for not even $1,800 a month, right? If I had a lease and I had to break my lease, all the money that I made January, February, March would have more than paid for breaking my lease in September or July, you know? And not to mention my mortgage is $2,056 versus renting a property in my neighborhood for $1,650, $1,800. This house that I'm in now rents for $1,650. $1,550, but maybe I would get $1,650 because I went, I did nice renovations. But there is a benefit for thinking about the rental arbitrage. If you're not afraid of like walking away from it, if the situation doesn't benefit you. But there is the whole idea of furnishing the whole house. And the other thing too with the rental arbitrage, you're taking that house as it is. You can't put down new floors. You can't put in a new vanity. And you have to rent a nicer place. So maybe $1,650 is really $2,000 a month to get a renovated property.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to show you the co-host model because then you got no money in the deals.
Which is management, kind of.
I have no leases, no nothing. And if the owners don't do the upgrades, I don't take the property.
I've not been exposed to that. And I think that that's a fantastic entry into this kind of business, especially if you're not in a position to just go out and buy a property or to put down first, last, and security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can be a lot.
100%. That's a fantastic way, because Airbnb is not just having the property; it's everything else. It's the communication with the client, guest. Dealing with their I want to cancel or blah blah blah. Like, again, educate yourself, figure out what you want, figure out what aligns with your long-term values and what you're good at, and then figuring out that mix that will work for you.
I love that.
For sure. So I want to be mindful of your time. We're like a couple minutes before 1:00. So one of the last questions that we like to ask everybody that comes on here is, well, number one is usually what's your number one secret, but you kind of touched on a lot of that. So I want to ask you instead, where do you see the industry going? Like, where do you see this business going?
In Fort Lauderdale,
the Airbnb business.
In Fort Lauderdale, Airbnb is not going anywhere. The city is on board with the Airbnb model. They have set up their entire taxes, the permitting process. And I do all of that too. So that's the other part people need to think about when you get into Airbnb is the regulations. I think that, the hotels, they say that we're taking business away from the hotels. That might be true. But I think that Airbnb is opening up doors for people who never would have traveled at all. Some of my guests are, from middle of nowhere, Virginia or Ohio. And I'm not trying to say anything, anything about that, but I'm just saying, I can't imagine these 4 groups of, 2 couples affording a 200, let's say like, because when you book a hotel, it's never just that. You have to pay for valet, the tourism tax that they have down here. So for some people, this is a very affordable way to see the country, to go out and have these experiences that they never would have done at all. So we are adding, we're bringing people into the tourism market, number one. We're bringing revenue to the city, right, because of the taxes. And then we're bringing revenue to all of the businesses that are around here. And there's obviously a demand. I think that the most important thing right now is that I think Airbnb has to do a little bit better on, that's a whole nother podcast.
Advocating for the house.
That's not going to change. I don't think that's Airbnb. No, that's not going to change.
I think they should too, though. That's what I was thinking also, Mike.
They don't care.
No, they don't give a shit. I agree.
Yeah.
But they should, but they don't care. Their model is we can always get more hosts, we can get more travelers. So that's always been.
I don't know about that. I feel like, to my understanding, Airbnb is going public, right? So they need to have certain metrics about customer experiences. So what's happening is that their model is shifting more towards the guest experience because of this process that they're going through. When I first started with Airbnb, I have to tell you that the host experience was incredible. I mean, I've been doing this for 6 years. It has steadily gone down, but I genuinely believe it was ruined by some bad characters who took advantage of what they were doing at the beginning, especially when it comes to recovering damage, loss, and so forth. Like, no, you can't get anything. It's so difficult. And I do agree that they're not very good with the host. However, I found that if you are a good host and you have a lot of volume, they treat you differently. And I don't mean, and it's us as hosts to build your business, to build your credibility with Airbnb. And it's just like everything else, like build your relationship with them. And if they treat you wrong, go on social media. They have a Facebook page on Facebook, and I go up there and I blow them up, and then they call me. Like, learn business, get aggressive, like go balls out, like stop being a pansy. That's not the word I really want to say, but like really take ownership of the fact that this is your business and you want it to work. Even if they don't give a crap about hosts, make them give a crap about you. My problem with Airbnb is that they don't educate the guest about what it is to be at an Airbnb. Like, people will come into the house and treat it like a hotel. I don't even want to start with that, but there is no like, hey, welcome to the Airbnb. This is what the experience should be like. This is someone's home. They only have X amount of time to clean the place. And that's not what I'm saying that there should say, but these are the mindsets behind what a welcome intro to Airbnb should be like. And just courtesy, like guests should learn to be respectful. It's not a hotel. You can't just call me whenever you want for pepper. One lady asked me for honey, and I think that that's my problem with Airbnb is that they just put any and anybody on there. A girlfriend of mine had someone stay at her house. I mean, he was a super nice guy and he was cute. So it's like not the worst thing in the world, but he had a felony. Her mom Googled him and it turned out that he was a felon. So like they are letting people into your home, your house, especially when you're sharing your space without any kind of true screening. And right now, my mom also rents on Airbnb and she has a really big house. So it's split, right? So she has, one side and then there's another side that she rents. And I don't know if you've heard about, but there are these migrants. They don't live anywhere. They're Uber drivers or they just got divorced or they're going through something and they don't live anywhere, but they're booking these Airbnbs for months and you can't they're just in your house. And that to me is a massive problem with Airbnb right now. People who are on the border of homelessness are booking Airbnbs to stay in people's homes. And as a host, you don't have any way of canceling them because what are they really doing that is wrong? So those are my qualms with Airbnb. I think that it's like you need them. I don't know. It's like
you love to hate them kind of thing.
Yeah.
Love and hate them.
I do.
Yeah.
But I think if Airbnb doesn't get their act together, they will be a segment on John Oliver's show, and then that will be really, really bad.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up the podcast.
End on such a bad note. But yeah.
No, I mean, I think overall, first things first, I appreciate you coming on. I always love talking to you, and you bring a lot to the table, and you bring it in a very like honest, open, and kind of frank way. And to me, it's always interesting because it's kind of like the opposite spectrum, right? I love the people. The rest is a little bit harder for me. So yeah. It's very interesting that it's the perfect balance. But I definitely think that like if you guys go back and re-listen to this, you'll find there's a lot of little nuggets in there. And then one thing that you haven't said that you say all the time when it comes to Airbnb is really very much about quality in, quality out.
Yes.
So the most amount of quality you can put into your stuff, then you get the best amount of quality out of it. And that means both, yes, the money, but also the experience for your guest.
100%. And, you know, making sure that you're providing a quality product so that your guests will have a quality experience is so important. You know, like just change the garbage disposal when you get in, you know, get your AC, serviced. If you can knock out all of those maintenance things at the beginning, I promise you that you won't be dealing with, you know, AC's out, garbage disposal is leaking, all of those issues that a lot of people go through. And one of the things, you know, I just want to say also is that Airbnb has fundamentally changed my life. You know, if you can do the math on the numbers that I just told you, when I have, you know, 4 properties, the revenue is truly life-changing if you know, you're building from scratch. You know, I'm an immigrant to this country, and I'm so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have been able to do this as a woman, as a minority person in this country, to just buy a property and turn it into a rental and start building and keep going. And, you know, I think the biggest thing that I want a lot of people to understand is that anybody can do this. You know, there are no limits on, there are no real barriers to entry. And I think that once you just decide for yourself that this is what you want, I promise you that you can do it.
Okay, that's a much better note for us to get off on, because that was good. That was very good and motivational. Yeah. I love it. But yeah, deeply grateful to have you as a friend, have you in my circle. So that's deep appreciation for that as well. Mike, my brother, any last minute wisdom that you want to share?
No, like I said, I love doing these interviews because it just gets, no one has the quote unquote perfect Airbnb business. So I love seeing how all these different hosts make it work for them, what works for their personalities, what works for their goals. And again, just like Christina said, like anybody can do this. When you get clear on your why and you know why you want to get into this business, you can deal with any of the bumps in the road and you'll know exactly where you're going, and it's completely worth it. And like you, it's completely changed my life, right? Like I got to leave my corporate job. My wife got to leave her corporate job. This is all we do now. And it's all because we learned the skill set, and it's unbelievable, right? So thank you for being here with us and sharing all those nuggets. We truly appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.